So let's first look at what we want to learn during this week. And so the questions we want to ask ourselves is, why is interactive visualization useful? Then in this lecture, we want to look at what's already here and what we can learn from the stuff that we can look at already. And see what really makes up a good interactive visualization. And at the end of this lecture, then we're going to shortly look at what I thought up, what we're going to do in this workshop. But then later on, we will, talk to you and see where you're standing right now, and then we can maybe adjust the schedule a bit. So before I start, maybe a few words about myself. My name is Henrik Gieselmann. I'm a media designer from Mainz, Germany. I have a background in broadcast and visual effects mainly. So I started about 13 years ago in the broadcast industry at a big publicly funded German broadcaster. And after 4 years, I went on to study media design and mainly focused on 3D animation and visual effects. And then went on to work in visual effects for about a year. And this is where I was introduced into the whole interactive 3D world, because they had this interactivity department and they were doing really fun things. And I wanted to do it as well, but as I was working in compositing, and the compositing department is always swamped with work, there was really no chance for me to transition. So I went back to Mainz and did my master's thesis, and it ended up being about teaching Unity using generative design. And for me, at the same time, it was my way of learning Unity. And at the same time, I started working in the 3D graphics department for a news program, again, of a publicly funded broadcaster. And I'm saying publicly funded broadcaster because sadly, I'm not allowed to talk about the work we're doing there, which has to do with crazy legal reasons. And sadly, I can't show the work. But what we are going to talk about is more or less related to what we are doing at work. So the topic for this MOTYF, as Brian approached me, he said was visualizing complexity. And I think that's a really, really interesting topic, because I think we are living in a world of really constantly increasing complexity. I put up Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz up here, and I think in Germany he's understood to be the last polymath. It says the dictionary is the English word, but it's like a universal genius. So he was versed in philosophy, nature, science of nature, law. He was a political advisor, and he was, he knew a lot of stuff about almost everything. But that was 3 centuries ago. And since then, human knowledge really has exploded, right? If you want to become an expert in physics, then you become an expert in quantum physics and in that special niche in quantum physics, and you can't be like this broad educated person. And while you maybe can become an expert in some very specific thing, I think for the most for most people, it's more about learning stuff really quickly and understanding the concepts, and then again forgetting stuff that is not relevant anymore. So if I look at the technological change I've seen over the last 10 years, and that's really not that much, right? Then when I started in broadcast, we were still running around using tapes to copy video files, right? And so now everything is done on servers, and you have YouTube, and everything is, we are able to talk live here at the moment. So everything is changing really fast. And this also means that we need to find ways to explore and explain things faster. And with in the same moment with the rise of computers, we also starting, collecting data all the time, and also a lot of, nonsensical data. So I took this screenshot from an app I have on my phone, which is collecting how many steps I do. And so I think this also brought with it the rise of data visualization, because you can't pour over these amounts of data we are collecting every day without having really some kind of good visualization to go with it along with it. You can see this in a lot of places. So I guess everybody has seen the visualization in the upper left. It's this COVID-19 dashboard by the Johns Hopkins University, which just displays COVID-19 all over the place over the world. And then in Germany, at least, I guess every major newspaper has their own visualization of this of these COVID-19 data. And then we also get like a lot of more or less useless data. And so, for example, I have this this YouTube dashboard of my 15-year-old YouTube account, and we can see how many clicks there are. There are no video uploads, but there are 2 access or 2 clicks by people. And what all of these things really are missing, I think, is some sort of relational data, or something that explains this data. So for the COVID data, we just get the current state, and maybe the news outlet itself will give you the context for everything. But for this YouTube account, or also for these for the data my step tracker is giving you, there is really no explanation why it looks the way it looks, right? I mean, if you look at the heart rate, it was very fine until Wednesday, and then it suddenly stopped. Did I die? I hopefully didn't. And I also didn't sleep very much that week, right? But we don't get any information about why that is. And so typically if you have a situation like this, then you will want to just go the journalistic route, and you will do your research from many sources, and then you will handpick the important elements from it. And you can think of this like your typical news program piece or whatever you have. But in the end, you're really just throwing away a lot of information, because you just tell this one story. And it's also, you have people passively consuming these things. They can't interact with this. And this is really where interactive visualizations come in. They can help us cope with these amounts of data we have. And they can help you understand and see patterns much better. This works for linear storytelling as well, of course, but we can also add some kind of playful interactivity, and this can really help you get more involved with users. So if I switch to the browser, and I have this really cool thing. So the padding, they did this piece on the largest vocabulary in hip hop, and you have all these hip hop artists, and you can see how many unique words they use. And this works as a simple graphic, of course, but it would be, if you would just print this in a paper, then you had the problem that you weren't able to, see all these faces. But this is cool because you can go in and, maybe search for your favorite rapper or rappers that you know. I'm not that deep into the whole rap game, but I know Eminem, and I probably know Childish Gambino, and I probably would have expected him to be somewhere more around this area. And so you can engage with the data, you can play with it, and that's really can increase the interest people have into things. And it also allows us to cater to different users. So we can, more specialize more in we can split the information into, very in-depth information and the more broad overview of things. And then you can have people take the route that they want to go. And then, obviously we can also have, but I will go in this later. So yeah, let's check out some of these visualization types. So we have this very classical 2D interactive visualizations, where you can just, it's 2D, you can hover over it. Then this is something I did for my master's thesis. You have like an interactive coronavirus visualization where you at least add the element of time to it, so you can see things spread over the globe. And I also correlated news headlines with this piece, so you can combine different data sets and have people explore this. This is really something where interactive visualizations shines, because you can have two really, really large data sets and bring them together. And then we have 3D visualizations, which often can be, just object visualizations where you try to show things and explain how things are. And this is what we do a lot of work, actually. And I think I have two very nice examples here. So this is a relatively simple one. So you can just navigate around this Perseverance rover, and you have these, let's call them click events, where you can just, go through these P's and have it explain to you what each element on this thing does. And then there's also this very nice piece, oh, wrong button, by the Tagesspiegel in Germany. And in Germany, we have this huge, oh, it doesn't work, so yeah, okay. This huge airport in Germany that's built in Berlin. And there were many, many, many things that went wrong with it, and they're still building on it. And so they did this interactive visualization where you can just walk through, and then wherever something went wrong, you will get the information about which piece, which element failed in the process. So that's also a really interesting way to visualize things. And so you can have this, interactive walkthrough, and I think that works really well in terms of storytelling. And then you also have all these things that will be coming at us, and I think that's something that will be big in the future, is the whole AR and VR world. And I recently read that Facebook now has 1/5, that's 20% of its staff working on AR projects. That's really a lot. And I can show you, I think this is really cool as well. So there's this David Bowie piece by the New York Times. And they have these 3D scans of his clothes in this piece. And I think it doesn't really work that well on the browser, but if you had the app installed, then you could open this up in your on the app, and then you could have it in augmented reality on your phone, and you could look at this in real size, just right in front of you through your phone. And the detail in these pieces was really, really stunning. So that's also a really, really interesting way to explore interactive visualization. And I also think that this will become really important for business applications and probably medicine, all these elements where you maybe want to explain things, and people will, as soon as these AR glasses become wearable for more than maybe an hour without being too heavy, then I think this will be something really, really, interesting and important. But what's really, really important is that in interactive storytelling, we don't want, so this is something we really learned. You don't want your user to wander alone. You really have to give him the main storyline and extract the core information. And then maybe give him that additional information if he wants that. So yeah, you can think of this maybe as if you went to a museum in school, you would have maybe students who will be through the whole exhibition in probably 10 minutes, and they say, I've seen every piece of art. And then you will have people who read all the side information and they're really interested in this. And I think both is valid, because also for your online users, you will have people who will see your visualizations maybe on the commute to work in the train. And as soon as maybe someone asks them to, hey, can I change, or can I sit right next to you, they will be distracted and they don't have the time to really go in depth. And then you will have people who are really into the specific topic you're discussing, and they will want way more information. So you can really cater to your audience and define different audiences that you want your piece to work with. And then we also find that you have to, balance interactivity and storytelling, because you will have people who are, really tech savvy, and they are like, okay, nice, I have this 3D model and I want to return it, and I want to move it, and maybe then you can add some interactivity and do something with it. And we did this a lot in the beginning, and then we realized that for example, people like my mother, they don't care. They just want the information, right? So you have to really find a good balance between these elements. And the extent of guidance you have to give really depends on the piece you're having. So if you're just, showing some simple process, then you can just go really, really simple. And if you're doing some really complex stuff, then you have to guide more through the whole piece. And I would also say you shouldn't overdo it with gamification. So this is or excessive visuals. This really tends, or you can really tend to do this because you have the possibility to add all these funny elements, and you can almost make it a game. But then most of the time, so I'm talking from a journalistic point of view, then most of the time you're losing what you're actually wanting to do. Also, while building these things, if you're focusing too much on, creating the best visuals you can, then you maybe are losing the focus on what you're actually trying to tell on the way. And then one last piece that's really important with data visualizations is that just because you have the data, you don't have to add it. So just because you have this super huge data set and you have all these various informations, if they don't add something specific to your story, then don't have people explore that. It's just unnecessary clutter, and you want to avoid that. So next, I want to, just look at some of the main pieces you will see in typical interactive visualizations, and which we will mostly look at during the workshop. So you have very obvious click events. You click something, something happens. Then you have hover over events. So you just hover over something and you see something pop up. That's also, I think, quite important because it makes things easier. You don't have to click things. You can just move your mouse around. That's nice to have. Then you will have, if you have a timeline, which is can happen quite a lot at points of interest, so that people can find the important stuff. So, for example, I have another example here. So this is a visualization of what kind of video content was available on Parler during the storm on the Capitol in Washington. And they have this timeline up here, so you can click through every video. But they also, added these color things where you can see, okay, the red stuff that's actually inside the Capitol, and the yellow stuff is near the Capitol, and everything that's gray is just somewhere in DC. So you find an easy way to navigate, and you don't just have to, go through here and scroll all the time. So help people explore your story better. Yeah, then we've also just seen that somehow it's like scroll events. So you scroll and something happens. This was also very apparent for the web version of the David Bowie piece. Then you can have this 3D interaction, 3D navigation. So you can rotate around an object or click something and then zoom in on it. And then you would have some special AR, VR navigation, and yeah, that's just another topic. We're not going to look at AR and VR in this course because I have no idea, and I can't expect you to have any sort of that stuff lying around, and I'm also not set up to do this. So why do we want to do prototyping in the first place? Why not just, think about it and just go ahead and build it? And this is something we see a lot in everyday work, that for complex methods, there are no off-the-bat solutions you can just use, and they are not perfectly reusable. We build ourselves some kind of framework, and we still realize that it's too static and we can't do everything with it that we want to. So everything you do is just a little bit different, and so it's a good idea to have a way to try things. And as you are students, it's also great to just try things and then bring some knowledge into work. And then also you will have to test things with your users. So as I said before, every user is different, and some people will like to do interactive stuff with rotating objects. Other people, will not realize that they have to do this. So you have to think about, maybe I want to add explanations that they have to do some things. But if you have like younger users and they are like, why are you telling me all the time that I have to click this thing? What's wrong with you? I realize that. So it's really, you have to try things that work for the project you're doing. And then also maybe your platform will differ. So the first project you're doing is maybe for a smartphone, and the next one is for an AR device, and all of these things are very, very different. So you have to try things and find out what works and what doesn't. And the last important thing I want to say about this is that it could be that interactivity is not useful for your story. If you have a perfectly linear story, just do a video. You don't have to add interactivity to stuff that doesn't need it. And that's a realization you can have while prototyping as well. So if you end up with a piece that's pretty much just a video, where you just have to click on and on and on and on, then make it a video. It's more convenient for everybody, right? Because you force people to do things while they could just, watch a video. So why are we using Unity for prototyping? For one thing, because I know a little bit about it. But also because I think it's relatively easy to learn. So I was able to teach it myself. So I think a lot of other people will also be able to do so. I also think it scales really well into bigger projects if you have to do that. Another big plus is that you can, deploy to many devices. I think if you're maybe thinking about just traditional apps, then working for iOS and working for Android will mean completely different code. It's just not the same thing. With Unity, you can have just this one project and you can deploy it to iOS and Android and your Mac and your PC and whatever you have. And of course, it's not just this one-click solution, but it works relatively well. And that's a really, really huge advantage they have there. It's very well optimized for mobile devices and works well with 2D and 3D. And this is probably the thing that maybe makes it more suitable than something like Unreal Engine. But that would obviously work as well, of course. And then also the question I get from students lately is why go through the hassle of coding things yourself? I think right now most of you are from Poland, so you are all technology students, if I get this correctly from Jan. So you know this already, but it's really it really increases internal iterations times. If you can do it yourself, then you can change things, and you don't have to rely on other people to do so. And they will not have time, they will not have time for you all the time, and it's also expensive to get to them. So if you can manage to just get a little bit of coding experiences, it will really, really help you a lot in your work life, because it also means that you can way easier talk to external contractors and people and communicate with them, and that takes down the price. You can iterate more, and it's overall just really, really helpful.